In this lesson, we'll talk about those wonderful moves that very often change the outcome of the entire game, the Tesuji. And contrary to what a lot of people think, Tesuji is not just some miraculous looking move that just happens out of the blue and smites your opponent's stones, but it's simply the most appropriate and efficient and elegant and very often beautiful way of solving the problem, of managing a given situation. In a way, they're like the famous inventions. Before you know them, they're actually very difficult to come up with. They require a lot of creative and out-of-the-box thinking. But once you see them for the first time, they become more or less the norm. They become the standard way of solving the problem. For example, in ancient Egypt, when they were building the pyramids, for construction they would need the right angle. But how could they get it without the GPS and all the modern tools? There were probably many ways of doing this, but they came up with a brilliant solution, what we now call the Egyptian triangle. They would make a huge triangle out of rope with the sides of 3, 4, and 5, and they proved that a triangle with these dimensions is bound to have a 90-degree angle in it. And this invention is still used to this day. And they even say that it was this Egyptian triangle there that helped Pythagoras come up with his famous theorem. In the same way, when they needed to move those huge stone blocks around, how could they do it without the modern technology? There were probably many ways of doing this. They could put them on ships and boats, they could push and pull them, they could use the animals, until someone suggested using some sort of wheels to roll them. And that's so much faster and easier. And I don't think I need to explain how important that invention was for our modern civilization. And that's what makes Go so much fun for me personally. It's not just fighting and trying to divide the territory in a standard way, but it's trying to find a more efficient way of looking at things. Trying to think outside the box. Trying to come up with something new, something different, something I've never played before. Some unorthodox decision. And it doesn't happen every time, it doesn't happen every game, but when it does, boy, it feels good. Naturally, there are hundreds and thousands of different Tesujis. There are very thick books and Tesuji dictionaries and encyclopedias, and we're not going to look at all of that. Instead, I simply want to show you a few classic examples of Tesuji. Let's have a look. In this first Tesuji, these 3 white stones are trapped inside of Black's cage. But it's not really a cage, because the Japanese and English name of this Tesuji is a crane's nest. So I guess the Japanese see this as a black nest with 3 eggs that are desperately trying to escape. Now let's see if they can do it or not. If White wants to escape out of this, White needs to try and jump like this. And now, of course, if Black tries to push, White will connect like this, or even with a bamboo joint, and White successfully escapes. The same thing happens if Black pushes from here, but what if Black tries to be creative and wedges like this? Now, of course, White will Atari, connect, and White still escapes. So, there is no way to capture White? Yes, there is. A Tesuji comes into play here. After Black wedges and White Ataris, Black is not going to connect. Instead, Black makes another Atari and gives up his stone. And you will discover that this is the essence of a lot of Tesujis out there. To give up, to sacrifice some of your stones for the greater good to achieve the desired result. So in this case, White doesn't have a choice. White has to capture this black stone. And now, another Atari. And White can't connect anymore. If White connects here, these white stones still have 1 liberty left, and Black can capture them all. So in the end, White cannot escape out of this nest. And it's very interesting to see how the same shape can be seen very differently in different cultures. For example, in China, this shape is not seen as a crane's nest. Instead, it's called a turtle that failed to stick his head out of the shell. It's the same exact shape, but it creates a very different image. But, of course, it still works the same way. This next Tesuji also has a very special name to it. These white stones seem to be in no danger at all. White seems to be alive. And then, all of a sudden, Black plays this Atari on the 2 stones. So White saves them, and Black descends onto the first line. And all of a sudden, you find out that it's so hard to approach them. They seem to be so easy to catch, but then you cannot approach them from here, because this move puts your own stones in Atari, and Black will capture them. So there's a shortage of liberties here. But also if you approach from here, can you do it? Black will Atari, and now you are helpless. If you capture this stone, then all of the white stones are in Atari. Black will capture here. And if you capture these two, then black will capture these four, and white only has one eye. This Tesuji is known in China as a golden chicken standing on one leg, these two black stones being the precious chicken that proves to be impossible to catch. This next Tesuji has a lot of different names. It's quite common in practical capturing races, and it's a little more complicated. Here, black is trying really hard to attack white, but black is leaving some weaknesses behind. This cutting point and a couple of cutting points here. So white wants to make use of that. White cuts here first, and then cuts like this. And this in itself is a very useful Tesuji to remember. White's plan here is that if black captures this stone, then white will Atari from the other side, and there's a double Atari. So something will be captured, and this is a good result for white. But what if, instead of capturing the stone like this, black simply connects? Obviously after this, white should have a plan of somehow capturing these two black stones. So white extends, and if black now blocks on the second line, white will just capture. So of course black is not going to do this. Black will extend. And after this, now black can block. According to black's calculations, these three white stones only have 3 liberties left. These 3 black stones also have 3 liberties left, but white can't cut here. Black can just capture the stone. So does it mean that these 3 white stones are dead? Not quite yet. White can still cut here, even though it doesn't seem to work. Black captures, and white extends, sacrificing 2 stones instead of 1. Of course, black has to Atari, and white cuts. Black captures, and white sacrifices 1 more stone. Again, black has to take it, Atari, and black has to connect here. We saw something like this in the previous course on 13 by 13. On the first line, we sacrificed 2 stones and then 1 more, and destroyed I-shape. And this Tesuji follows a very similar pattern. After this, white simply fills a liberty, and black only has 2 liberties left, while white still has 3. And there you go, white wins the capturing race. These black stones have a very peculiar shape, and I think it's this shape that gives this Tesuji many of its names. In Russian, it's referred to as a hammer. In English and in Japanese, they see it as a stone tower, a stone pagoda, or a tombstone squeeze. And in Chinese, they call this a big-headed ghost. And even though the variation is quite long and it's a little difficult, but it's well worth remembering this because it happens quite often in practical games. This last Tesuji I want to show you comes from a game of one of our subscribers, Maxim. His username is SBBMax on one of the servers. This was actually move 90 in the game, but I removed all the rest of the stones just to focus on this position here. White has a start point, black approaches, and white ignores. After this, black invades the corner. White blocks, black extends, and white blocks like this, which is typically considered to be a mistake. Usually white extends. Black extends correctly, white blocks, a cut, and this is the correct refutation. So white extends here, and the 3 black stones seem to be in danger, except these 3 white stones are even weaker. So black plays here. Now white can Atari first. And how can white save these stones now? In the game, white played like this. Black plays here. Of course, black could simply block from the corner, and this was supposed to work, but this is possible too. But now white tries to connect over. Atari. White connects. Atari. White connects, and all of a sudden, the 3 black stones are dead. So something obviously went wrong. What was it? Let's go back a few moves. Black still plays here. White tries to connect over. Atari. White connects. But at this point, black has a beautiful and standard Tesuji to remember. Instead of playing this Atari, black can play a brilliant throw-in first. Again, a sacrifice. White has no way but to capture the stone. And now, black can play this Atari. And after white connects, you see that because of this throw-in, white now has this extra stone in the corner, which is completely useless, and it reduces the amount of white liberties from 3 to only 2. And now, thanks to this throw-in, black can Atari and all of the white stones are captured. This Tesuji works simply like magic. But of course, after this lesson, I don't want you to go out there getting a thick Tesuji dictionary and trying to learn as many Tesujis as you possibly can. Because just like with Joseki, that's not the best way of doing this. Let's say if you're trying to learn a foreign language and you need to learn some new words, some vocabulary, it wouldn't be the best idea to take a dictionary and try to learn the words from there. Instead, it's a much better plan to practice and learn some words from conversations, from actual speaking. In the same way, when you're trying to learn Tesuji, it's much better to try and learn them from your own games, to try and experiment and see what works and what doesn't. And even if you can't find a Tesuji during the game, maybe a stronger opponent or someone else will show you a Tesuji after the game, and then you'll remember that, oh, this is how it works. And next time you see this, next time you come across this in one of your games, you're not going to miss it. It'll become an actual weapon in your inventory.
By the way, you can also watch these lessons on our platform, gomagic.org. Except there, you'll watch them with interactive quizzes right within the lessons and practical exercises right after them. And if you enjoy watching these Go videos and you don't want to miss others like this one, go smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and this is Go Magic.